Okay. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? Okay, cool, cool. There you go. No, not that. There you go.
It's hard to manage your workload, especially when your team doesn't know who's working on what. But with Monday.com, my team and I can...
Howdy, okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi. Just gonna check here. Okay. Alright. I need to see how many people are watching. You have to scroll up in order to see that, huh? That's stupid. Oh, there you go. I was like, what? Cool. Alright, guys. We'll start up. Let me just, ooh, OBS. Alright. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully everybody's doing good. I'll let people join in if they want to join in for the live stream. I know I have people watching via, the Who group. Hello, Right Hack Ups. How's everybody doing? Okay. Okay, let me just send this also out to somebody I know who wants to watch this as well. There you go. Okay. release notes. No, not now. Alright. Well, we're going to be waiting about 10 minutes so that people could join up, so people could see. That way people have time to kind of chime in and stuff like that. Alright. Alrighty. Gonna take some time here so that people could join up, see, so that people could get ready to see the stream. It was set to be 5 minutes from now, but I'll let people get in earlier so people could be ready. Alright. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be covering some Node today. I think I'm going to make it consistent with right hackups, so that way everybody will take part in that. It is web development or JavaScript based, so will take part in that. It is web development or JavaScript based, so JavaScript based.
Campers, welcome to your 5th Node.js tutorial, and in this video we're going to talk about function expressions. Campers, welcome to your 5th Node.js tutorial, and in this video... Alright then guys, so we're about to talk about modules in Node.js and how we work with them. And we do use modules a lot when we're creating Node.js applications. They are an important feature. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to talk about modules a lot when we're creating applications. They are an important feature. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to talk about modules a lot when we're creating applications. They are an important feature. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to talk about...
Alright. Looks good, looks good. Everything's set up audio-wise. Looks good. Okay. Oh, I'm really excited to do this project, you know. If you guys are watching, I don't know who's watching, but if you are, you know, this is something that I picked up while in my internship, along with JSON and a bunch of other things. So I figured, you know, let's take the time to kind of continue learning it, as well as kind of like help others to understand it, because working in the internship, I know what it does and how it's worked now. So I figured I kind of share the same knowledge to others as well. So. Alright. Well, we're going to be getting started in a couple minutes, guys. I just want everybody to kind of chime in, come into the stream, say hi to people, that kind of stuff. and then we will go from there. Okay, I got everything set up. I got Visual Studio Code. Yep. Okay, one more minute and we will get started, guys. One more minute. And I do apologize for the audio quality. I mean, you know, I'm just going with whatever resources or tools I have available with me. I think it works fine. Yeah. It should work though. Alright, we're gonna get started. So, let me turn this music down a bit here. So as I was saying, basically, you know, like I said, I was in an internship, and in the internship, I worked with the Census Bureau, and my job in particular was the position was called dissemination of the internet, and services or something like that. I really didn't remember in full detail. But basically what that means is obviously dissemination is where you take information and you try to displace that information equally. So you disseminate, as they say. So my job in particular was to work with a bunch of team leads and team members in general, and I would essentially just work with them on projects to, you know, get all the information set up and ready for people to watch on surveys and things like that. Not only that, but I also helped to kind of pass public information so that whenever people would look up data information that we kind of filter to eventually become publicly available, people were able to see that through our data structures, our front end web pages that we provided for the Census Bureau, and as well as like the data tables that we had. So that was something that we basically worked on up until obviously the outbreak came out and things had to be shut down, so things were cut short in regards to what we were able to kind of complete. My internship was supposed to continue up until I want to say April 24th. It was basically like the second to last week of April. But due to the outbreak, they had to close out most, if not all, of internship programs under HACU, which was Hispanics Association for Colleges and Universities. So that's who I was under with. Besides that, you know, it had a lot of ups and downs. But point is, one of the things that we always focused on as far as web development or programming goes is with Node, JSON, Angular, basically APIs. I don't think we used React, but we did use command shell. So we used Corn shell, and we used Bash, and we use GitHub, obviously, or in as far as specifically with the census, we use GitLab, so that way we can pass projects or like updates to repositories, obviously just like any GitHub repository would work. We worked with various web server lines and just web server operations in general. We had about 7 to 9 specific servers that we had set up in the census. This included Web 6, Web 5, Web 4, Web 52, Web 55, and a bunch of other ones. And Web, I think 40, 42, something like that. Basically, each specific server, Web 6, Web 5, had a specific task that they were utilized for. Web 6 was specifically for production, so you would see Web 6 basically to see how things turned out for final production, in regards to, you know, kind of like that would be the final pass to make sure it was readily available to be passed on to the public, whether that was getting information out to the public, or editing a web page to make it look nice, or making sure there weren't any quality assurance. That's mainly what we did as far as Web 6 goes. Also file transfers and different things like that. So we did various tests on that. Web 4 is for what was it? It was for it was another test environment. So basically, Web 4 was so that we could test and kind of push the limits of what we could do with our table creators and web pages and things like that, and so on and so forth. I was specifically able to test with Web 6 and Web 4, so those are the ones that stick out to me the most. And in those, like I said, we physically tested on our browser to check the websites, but we also use command prompts or command lines, and also file transfers and a bunch of other stuff. VS Code was one of the main components of what the census used to kind of work on front-end work of web pages. So with VS Code, they were able to look up JS files, JavaScript, Node, anything specifically to Angular that was also referenced back to VS Code, or I'm sorry, not VS Code, to front-end work. So that's what we did. I did not get the chance to touch SAS, but they also got to use SAS, which is basically SAS is kind of like a database. Yeah, let's look it up. What is SAS? SAS, let's see, I usually look up technology. SAS technology, what it is. SAS is statistical analysis system. So basically, it basically allows you to kind of manage back-end files and information. So it is a lot of back-end data management. So I didn't get to do back-end, but I mainly did front-end for the internship. So that's what I kind of want to focus on with this schedule. So I spoke to the position members at Right Hack Ops. So this is going to be something that I want to do officially. I'll give them more concrete kind of like scheduling to let them know how I'm going to do that and things like that. But going forward, I'm going to be making sure that, this is all set up and good and dandy. Obviously, this live stream is last minute, so if nobody watches it, that's okay. Obviously, I kind of did this last minute as well, and I figured I kind of get something set up. So specifically, if you do ask me right now, my main focus or objective with this meeting for Right Hack Ops is going to be to, one, learn the fundamentals of JavaScript. Two, to get a tutorial on Node, and trust me when I say tutorial, I'm also going to be learning, so I'm looking up tutorials as well. So I figured it'd be a one-to-one kind of like, I know a little bit more than probably most others for class members or club members, but there might be someone who knows more than I do too. I can't say otherwise, but I figured we just kind of take whatever time we have off, if we are off, because I know the quarantine has us locked up and not doing much. We take the time that we have and learn something that could be very resourceful and useful, especially if you're going to get into web development. I might do web development, I'm not sure, but I figured it's a good asset or tool to learn anyways. So Node is one. Eventually we're going to get into just specifically other variants of JavaScript writing. We're going to look into Vue. So if you don't know what Vue is, we'll look at it. They call it Vuetify as well. Vuetify, okay. Alright. Vuetify. Let's see. What is Vuetify? Vuetify.js is a component framework for Vue.js2. It aims to provide clean, semantic, and reusable components that make building your application a breeze. So it's basically another API to use. And if you don't know what an API is, we'll look up what an API is because I don't like to leave anybody in the blank. What is an API? An API is an application programming interface. Basically, it's software that you can use to kind of define other components. And that way it makes it easier for you to build whatever you want to build, whether it's front end, back end, just database management, whatever the case may be. And in this case, Vue is specifically mainly front end. So we're going to be doing some front end work for web applications or web online services, if that's the case. Okay. Not only that, eventually, once we get familiar with Node, we'll go from Node to Vuetify. If people want to learn that, I'll see what people want to touch on too as well, as far as web development goes, or just JavaScript in general. And then from there, we'll probably see what Python can do as far as backend, because I know with Django we can use Django to look up backend database for web development as well. So we'll look into that. I wouldn't use Sass. After talking with a bunch of people who are utilizing Sass to essentially get their data management done, I heard Sass is. I mean, they give it updates and stuff to make it, up to speed with modern, demands as far as like what it's capable of doing. But Sass has been around for some time. In fact, how old is Sass? Sass is 43 years old. So yeah, like I said, they updated a lot, but it's very old, back end software usage. I would say that from what I remember last speaking with the census, they were eventually going to be moving into using Python for backend, and then once they were able to kind of completely cover every technological division or department in the census, they were going to be moving from Sass to Python to do all the back-end work. But obviously that takes time because, one, it's the government. The government always takes time to get everything implemented and done for other people. And two, there's a lot of divisions and departments, and it would be really hard for them to just instantly make that choice as well. So anyways, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. The last time I did this, I did a kind of like a very just short stream, but I did it on my Facebook, and I figured at this point I might as well just utilize it to kind of not just share it with people on my Facebook just for personal reasons, but also to kind of get other people engaged. And I thought, obviously, let me see how Right Hat Ups feels about it, especially the position holders, and how you guys feel about it. So if you are watching, great. I'm glad you guys are watching. And if you're not watching, that's fine. Like I said, we're gonna make a proper schedule. I'll explain in detail how that's gonna work going forward until the quarantine is done. I think I want to do these streams until at least quarantine finishes up, or whatever happens with that, and then we kind of decide from there if people want to continue this or this was just kind of like a one-off, kind of like a schedule meeting for everybody to learn. But I want to talk about kind of 3 things that are really important to have ready when we go into these. First things first is I know you could use Visual Basic, you can use Atom as a source code editor to kind of do the same thing that I'm doing now, which Visual Studio Code is a source code editor. But I prefer Visual Studio Code. If you have Visual Studio or Visual Studio Basic, or you are using another IDE, I mean, you can definitely do it. I think it accepts JavaScript writing. I would say go for it, but you might fall into some complications that I, in particular, would probably not be able to help you with if something comes up and it's impeding you from continuing with, the sessions that we're going to be going with. So first things first, I say you should definitely get Visual Studio Code. Second thing that you should do is you should definitely download Node. Hold on. You should definitely download Node.js. All right. That way you can be able to do what you need to do in order to start writing in JavaScript, right? And then the third thing that would be very beneficial is please, it's beneficial for me. I know I'm starting to use it more and more. At first I was a little iffy about it, but you get used to it. Try to set up a GitHub account, GitLab, Git in general, or even download GitHub on your. They have a proper software you can utilize on your Mac, PC, Linux, whatever the case may be, and get those set up on your VS Code so that you can be able to push, pull, whatever the case may be, or clone into your repositories. So with that further ado, let me reiterate, this is going to be teaching again. I'm not gonna go any further if people have certain questions or are falling behind. I want people to be engaged as much as possible, and at the same time, if there's something that that's any ideas that people have as well, we can definitely look into those also. But yeah, let's look into this. I started this tutorial that I've been following on YouTube. It's a really great resource and tool to look at, and it's under. Hi Dad, what's up? It's under. Let me see, what's his name? Net Ninja. I think he's a great guide. He has a couple great playlist tutorials to kind of learn different web development tutorials. I think not just web development, I think he touches up on other tutorials as well, but in this case we're going to be learning JavaScript, Node, maybe JSON. I know that's eventually going to come up with Node, and also Vuetify, because I like Vue. I've used Vue before and it's really resourceful. Okay, but without further ado, let's actually go back to the beginning, because I know that people weren't here when this when it started up. So let's see if we can go back to this playlist. Where's this playlist? Playlist. Where's the playlist? Okay. Hold on, wait. How do I check the playlist here? Let's see.
Howdy campers, welcome to your 5th Node.js tutorial. And in Howdy campers.
Okay, so let me check here. Where did I put the... Maybe it's on my playlist over here? Let me check here. Let me see. I had it here somewhere. Anyways, let's go back here. I'll see if I could find, here it is. Okay, let's go to 1 here. And this is basically going to be the introduction to,
Do you want to learn to draw professional and impressive artwork from scratch
it's
that
gonna be
will
the
blow people's
introduction
minds?
to,
I'm Scott Harris,
basically
professional
what
illustrator,
Node
painter,
is,
and
how it
artist.
affects web
My character drawing
development,
course
and
on
how it
Udemy
kind of
has helped
touches
thousands of
on,
students gain the art skills they need to draw well,
So
and
we're
I
gonna
can
look into that.
Yo, what's happening campers? Welcome to your first lesson of the best Node.js tutorial series on the planet. Okay then, so you may have heard of Node.js. Everyone's using it and it's really popular at the minute. So what do? You head to the Node.js website and you think, I'm going to learn this. But then you're faced with this paragraph right here. Node.js is a JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript Engine. Node.js uses an event-driven, non-blocking model that makes yada 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 yada. Okay, this makes no sense whatsoever. This isn't exactly the most user-friendly or beginner-friendly paragraph to place on the front page of your website. So, to break it down, Node.js actually is a platform which allows us to run JavaScript on a computer or a server. And that, my friends, is immensely cool. Because if we want to create a full web application ourselves, we no longer have to learn additional programming languages to run on the server like PHP or Ruby. We can just do it all in JavaScript via Node.js.
And actually that's important to note because I'm not sure how that would work if we were forced to use Ruby or whatever else he stated into the video, because that's something else totally differently outside of the point. You're gonna notice that when he starts his tutorial, he uses
so that means that
he uses Atom, which is a source code editor. Again, I'm not going to be using Atom. You could use Atom if you want. Atom, whatever. Just let me know if you are going to use it, or if you're following along. Just keep in mind that he uses that when you see me using VS Code.
Node.js gives us the ability to read, delete, update files, easily communicate with the database, plus all the other things you would expect of a server-side language, and we're going to take a look at those in this tutorial. So why would you want to use Node.js? Well, it's insanely popular because, first of all, it uses JavaScript. So there's no need to learn another programming language to do your server-side code on. It's very fast, and that's because it runs on the V8 engine and uses non-blocking code, and we're going to take a look at that in later tutorials. It's got a huge ecosystem of open source packages which we can install in our projects via the Node Package Manager. And it's also great for real-time services like chat rooms. That's because we can utilize something called WebSockets. So we're going to take a look at all this and more in this tutorial. And here's a breakdown of what we will be learning. So I've gone ahead and split this tutorial series into 3 sections. The first section is all going to be about the inner workings of Node.js. We're going to look at the V8 engine, modules, the event emitter, the file system, and we're going to look under the hood, see how it all connects together and works. Because I think when you're learning Node.js, it benefits you greatly to know the inner workings of Node.js a little bit so you know what's going on. Then the second section is all going to be about creating a web server, routing. We're going to take a look at Express, which is a very popular Node package, and templating. And then the third section, we're going to create a Node.js application from scratch, and it's going to be a to-do app. Alright then guys, so this...
Yep, so he's going to be making an application so that specifically when you load it up on a local host on your web browser, it will essentially be able to, one, set up everything on the web page so it looks nice, and obviously has functionality to it, and two, you can use it however way you want to, but in his case, he wants to set up his web application so that it can save to-do activities or to-do lists. So he would, as you see right there, it would basically, you put in whatever you need to into the command prompt or search bar. You type whatever you want to type as far as like a task or a list you want to add to, or I'm sorry, a task to add to the list for a to-do list. And then once you click the add item, on the actual code of the software, it will actually take that information and save it into a front-end data management system. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing as an example. Obviously, first things first, he's going to point to us eventually how he's going to teach us the importance of using a terminal. So if you don't know what a terminal is, if you go to VS Code, a terminal is basically what you would utilize to run certain activities. It's the same way that you would use a run system on an IDE. So keep that in mind. But this time you would use it like a command prompt or a command line. If you've never seen those, basically they were the older ways of being able to do certain executables on a computer before we had mouse GUI-based like applications and things like that. So you would usually go to a command prompt, or it'll automatically load a command prompt on an old computer, and you'll be like, oh, I need to do, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And you could do various things. You can execute things, delete, rewrite, change directories, such as per usual. And you could do the same thing, obviously, in VS Code or Atom or whatever source code editor or IDE you're using. So just keep that in mind. We're definitely going to be doing that here on VS Code. All right?
This is what we're going to be aiming towards at the end of this tutorial series. We're going to go ahead and create this to-do application. So this is a quick sneak preview, and we can basically add things to this list. I'll say take a nap. That's always a good idea. Then we can add them, and we can also delete them if we click on them. So we're going to be creating this application towards the end of this tutorial series. We're going to learn a lot more about Node.js first of all. Secondly, Atom is the text editor I'm going to be using for this tutorial playlist.
As I stated before, he's going to be using Atom. It's up to you if you want to use that. If not, don't worry about it. Just use what makes you comfortable, but at the same time be wary that not everything will work with Node unless it specifically says it does. It's up to you though.
On the left over here, and it's really cool and it's free. So if you want it, just head over to atom.io and download it. And by the way, a lot of people have asked me which theme I use for Atom, and for the UI theme I use something called Monokai Tweaked, and for the syntax theme I use Atom Monokai, and it does look quite nice.
Don't worry about those. Those are aesthetics. You don't really need to worry about it. It's just what gives. It gives certain lines of code their colors to kind of determine what they are, but it don't matter as long as you know what's what.
Okay, so finally, I want to show you my GitHub page, and I've created a repository for this playlist, which is going to contain some assets for our final to-do list application. So all it has in it really is an image, some styles, and some JavaScript for the front end. So if you want to go ahead and download that, you can do, or maybe just leave it and then download it towards the end of this tutorial series. Either way, it's there if you want it. And finally, just a little bit about what you need to know before starting this playlist ideally. The first one is JavaScript. That's essential because we are going to be using JavaScript on Node.js. That's what it's all about. The second one is HTML. and that's more for later on in the course when we're going to be templating and creating a bit of a front end for our
HTML is what you will utilize on the browser, so hopefully everybody knows that.
Node.js application. And then finally, just a tiny bit about the command line. You don't need to know much. And
It's also the point of web development, but I'll stop talking.
to be honest, you can get away with not knowing anything. I'm going to show you all of the commands you're going to be using, and they're going to be minimal. So there we go, guys. That is your brief introduction to Node.js. I hope you enjoy this playlist, and I'm going to see you in the very next tutorial where we're going to go ahead and download it to our computer.
Do you want to learn to draw professional and impressive artwork from scratch that will blow people's minds?
Too, because my thing is acting up. I don't know why. Where's the playlist? Should we play? Here it is. There it goes. Like, what is the playlist?
To those who
Your business idea needs a website? So go to Wix.com. I know what you're thinking, another Wix ad. But before you skip...
Yo, what's going on, guys?
Hold up. No, I didn't say 17.
Yo, what's happening, campers? Welcome to your first lesson of the best Node.js tutorial series on the planet.
Okay. There we go.
Yo, what's happening, guys? Welcome to your second Node.js tutorial, and in this video I'm going to show you how we can install Node.js on our computer. Alright then, so the first thing we want to do is head over to nodejs.org. I'll leave the link down below. And you want to
Please download the stable version. If you download the most recent version, I mean, it will work, but there could be some instabilities with that, so you want to make sure you download the one that is most stable, which is the one here, usually on the left-hand side. You can download the current one, it's up to you, but I would prefer getting something that is guaranteed to be stable.
download one of these versions of Node.js to your computer. Now there's two to choose from on the homepage. There's version 4.4.4 or 6.2. And the difference is that this 4 one on the left is the latest stable version. This one on the right, although it's the latest version with all the new features, it may not be stable. Okay, so for most of you, I'm going to suggest this one on the left. So go ahead, click that and download it to your computer. Go through the installation steps. Don't change anything. It will take you about 3 minutes, and then Node.js will be installed. I've already gone ahead and downloaded this one just for the fun of it. So now that we've installed Node on our computer, how do we actually know that it is installed? Well, what you want to do is come down here and search for cmd, which is going to bring up the command prompt, and then in here just write node space -v. And this is going to tell us what version of Node is installed. So if you've been successful in installing Node, then it's going to throw back the version there to you. You can see mine is 6.2, but yours might be different. Okay, so when I said in a previous tutorial that we're going to be using the command line, this is what I meant. Whenever we want to run a Node application or do something in Node, we're going to write a command in this command line right here. But I find this a little bit cumbersome because I'm going to be working in Atom, this text editor, and I don't like constantly switching between the two, although it's not that hard.
In most cases, though, as far as when you use VS Code or maybe most source editors now, you don't need to download or install a library or package because most times they will already have a terminal. But if for whatever reason you do not have a terminal addition to your source code editor or IDE, please download that. Otherwise, you're gonna have to be using command prompt or PowerShell or whatever command based program you're using, or whatever the case may be. A command line, sorry. Yeah, so just be wary of that.
So what I've done is gone ahead and downloaded a package in Atom, which has given me this terminal at the bottom. So now I can just write Node commands in here instead of switching to this thing. Okay. So to do that, what you want to do is go to File, then go to Settings, and you want to go to Install to search for this terminal. Now I've already got it installed, and I'm going to show you what that's called. It's called Platform IO-IDE-terminal. So just search for this in the install section right here and then install it onto Atom. Okay, so now that we've done that, you'll notice we can just write anything we would do in the other one for Node in here instead. So if I put Node-V again in here, press enter, it's going to do the same thing and tell me I've got version 6.2 installed.
And if I check that as well on VS Code, it should be the same thing. I just gotta check to see if everything looks good here. Yep. So if I type node -v, so node -v, it should show me. Yeah, that's the latest one I have. Obviously, his video is about a couple years old. I think it's about 3 years old. So he has a older version of his Node program, but don't worry about that because it still will do the same functionalities.
Okay, cool. So you'll notice now on the left, I've got open the files that I uploaded to GitHub. So I downloaded those, and then I right-clicked on here, went to Add Project Folder, then navigated to where I downloaded those files from GitHub and opened them up into Atom. So at the moment, we've got this public folder and the assets, and this is all going to be for that to-do list application we make later on. We're not going to use them just yet. But what I am going to do is come to the top folder and go to New File, and I'm going to create a new file called app.js just to test out Node. And then inside here, I'm going to say console.log, and I'm just going to put a little message, hey ninjas, in there like that, and save it. So now, if I want to run this application or this file in Node, what do? Well, I come down to the terminal and I write node space and then the file name which I want to fire or execute, which is app.js. And actually, I can just leave off the JS. I can just put app, the name of the file. Click enter, and that's going to run this file for you, and you'll see that this is logged down here to the terminal.
So if you wanted to specifically run in the terminal and state something on the terminal, use the command or the line that's written console.log. That command will allow you to be able to put whatever you want to log onto the command line. So whatever you want displayed as text, you would use console.log.
Cool. However,
again, we're going very basic to kind of get people familiar with it because a lot of it is familiar if you've done programming before, but there are going to be some things that are a little bit different.
To do this, you'll notice I am in this directory in the terminal, Node.js playlist, where this file is found. So you'll need to be there as well. Wherever the file is found, to run it, you have to be there, or give the full path to the file. So to change directory, if you're in a different directory in here, you just do cd, and to go up a directory, you do ... That's going to bring me up a directory. You see, it's gone to YouTube sites now. Now to go back into a directory that you're currently in, like to choose a folder from the directory you're currently in, you say cd, then the folder name. So I could say node-js-playlist, and that's going to go back into this folder. Okay? So make sure you're in the folder where your app.js is, and then you can run it with node app, like so. Okay?
Keep in mind also, if you do decide to change directories and your directory folder has a space in between, make sure that you write specifically, like he says, make sure you put cd space, and then if your file or folder has a space as a name, make sure you put, you know, the quotations, the one dot quotations, I forgot what they're called, but you put one and then you type the name of it specifically and then you close it out and then you press enter and it'll open up that file. So specifically, mine would be that would be under which file? It would be this one right here. So it would be users, Pengu, documents, node, project. So you see how I have a space there. So if I wanted to specifically go there, I would type cd users Pengu, but then since I'm already in Pengu, I would go to documents / and then quotations, no projects, and then go from there. So that's how you would do it in order to get to that specifically, right? Otherwise, if you try to run a command line or your program and your terminal is not set onto that folder, it probably will have trouble running it because it's not under that directory. So make sure you have your directory in line with the program you're working on or the line of code you're working on.
Cool. So now we've successfully installed Node and we've run our first Node application, even though it's pretty pants. We're going to move on to some more advanced stuff over the next few tutorials. So until then, if you have any questions, leave those down below. Don't forget to share, subscribe and like, and I'll see you in the next video.
Okay.
In America, we all count, no matter where we call
and
home,
now that we're actually going to get into the meat and potatoes of this. This is the part where I'll start going slower as we move ahead. But that way, so that people, when we get to this point, people will have time to kind of see what they need to do in order to understand, one, the concept of what they're doing or writing, and two, to have time to see what they're writing. All right. So
JS tutorial, and in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the V8 engine.
Not the car engine.
Alright then, so we can fully understand how Node.js works. I want to dive under the hood a little bit and talk about the different components that it's made from. And the first one is the V8 engine. Now,
again, not the car engine.
The V8 JavaScript engine is at the heart of Node.js, so I do think it's worthwhile knowing a little bit about it and how it works. So first of all, what is a JavaScript engine? So when we write JavaScript, the computer itself does not understand it. It takes a JavaScript engine to convert that JavaScript code into machine code.
Just like most IDEs would do the same thing for your program.
Something that the computer can understand so that it can be processed. Okay? So, it looks something like this. We have machine code right here at the bottom of the stack. And that is what computers run on. It's what they understand. But it's very difficult to program in machine code. It looks an absolute mess and you don't know what's going on. So then we started to abstract away from it using different languages. We have assembly language which sits just above it, but still very much like machine code. Then we have something like C++ or C, and these are really popular because they abstract away quite a lot, but they still remain.
If you've taken Gustavo's classes, this should be really easy for you because Node is based off of C++ programs.
A lot of power. And then finally we have things like JavaScript, which sit at the top of the pile and abstracted a lot away from machine code. So when we write in JavaScript, we need a way for it to be converted into machine code for it to understand what we want it to do. So Node.js itself is actually written in C++.
Told you.
Which might seem a little bit off the wall at first, since it's all about writing in JavaScript. But here's the distinction. Node.js itself is written in C++, but as a program it allows us to write JavaScript which can run on a computer or server. Okay? And the reason that Node.js is written in C++ is because it uses the V8 JavaScript engine created by Google, which is also written in C++. So we know that Node.js is written in C++. We also know that at the heart of Node.js is the V8 JavaScript engine, which converts the JavaScript that we write into code that the machines understand, machine code. So if you do want to read a little bit more
again, V8 engine is not a car engine.
About V8, then you can come to the developers.google.com website /V8, and you can see here it says that V8 is Google's open source high performance JavaScript engine written in C++ and used in Google Chrome. So it's also the JavaScript engine that's ran in Google Chrome. So when we create JavaScript in Google Chrome in the browser, then V8 is used at that point too to translate it. Okay? And you'll see down here that you can see it says it can run standalone or be embedded into any C++ application. So we know that Node.js is a C++ application, and what it does is take V8 and it embeds it into Node.js. So how does Node.js work with V8? Node.js is written in C++, right? And V8 is embedded into it right there. So when we write JavaScript and we run it through Node.js, it's passed into V8 and converted into machine code which the computer can understand. Now V8 is just a part of the Node.js C++ core, and there's other parts of Node.js written in C++ too. So what do? Well, the rest of the C++ in Node.js hooks in to the JavaScript V8 engine, and it adds additional features to it. So initially, JavaScript was designed to run in a browser, and it wasn't meant to deal with lower level operations, but C++ was. So it's far more powerful than JavaScript. So Node.js, which is written in C++, hooks into the V8 engine, and it extends it in such a way that passes on these additional features to JavaScript, such as reading and writing files or connecting to a database. So this is what makes Node.js so exciting, the fact that we now have been given much greater power with JavaScript that we didn't have before, and therefore it enables us to create server-side code in JavaScript, which is really cool. So I think that'll do now for V8. Gives you kind of a rough background of what it does and how Node.js works. Any questions? Drop those down below. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to see you in the very next tutorial.
Okay, so as he stated, you have your JavaScript code, right? And then you take that code and you pass it through Node. Node works with V8 and C++, since Node is written from C++. Assembles it, compiles it, does what it needs to do to make it pass into machine code. The machine interprets that code, and then it executes the program or the executable that you had set up for it, right? So that's how it works, and that's kind of basically the same way how you interpret all aspects of computer programming. You always will have a compiler, an interpreter, and basically that's how it does the executables for machine and machine code. Okay, and then we'll do this last video here.
To those who step forward, Chamberlain University.
Those never go away.
Yo, what's happening, guys? Welcome to your 4th Node.js tutorial, and in this video I'm going to talk about the global object.
This will be the last video for today. Next week we'll get into number 5, and number 5 will actually start the process to actually start writing code. But I wanted to kind of get this out the way. If you are watching this now, I'm glad you stuck around. If you are not watching this now or you watch this later, it's good to kind of go back to this video so that you're caught up with this, so that when we start up and have a proper schedule, we're going to go straight into actually writing the code.
Okay then, guys, when we write JavaScript in a browser, the global object is the window, right? The window object. And we can access properties and methods on that window object, such as alert, scroll, or set timeout, etc. Now, when we write JavaScript in Node, the global object is no longer the window object because we're not in a browser anymore. The global object in Node is an object called global. But much like the window object, it gives us access to some methods we can use straight out of the box in Node.js. So I'm on the Node.js documentation right here, and I'm looking at the global object, which lists all of these methods we can use on it. So we can see things like set interval and set timeout and console, which were also available on the window object in the browser, and they're also.
These are some of the command line, or I'm sorry, the code that we're going to be using, so that we can be able to execute certain things.
On
console is definitely one of them. Set interval and set timeout is another one.
Object in Node.js, plus some other stuff as well. So let's go ahead into Atom and try a few of these out. So I've still got this app.js file that we made a couple of tutorials back, but I've deleted the contents of it. And here in the terminal, I'm in the Node.js playlist directory. So I'm going to show you first of all something we saw a couple of tutorials back, which is available to us on this global object, and that is console.log. So we can log things to the terminal down here using console.log in Node. So I could just write any message I want here, save this, and then run the application in Node by saying node app, and then that's going to log this message to the console. So we can still use that in Node. Now, some of the other things we can use, also available on the window object, are set timeout. So let's try that. We'll say set timeout, and in this we're going to fire a function, and this function is going to fire after 3,000 milliseconds.
3,000 milliseconds is a second, or 3 seconds, sorry. Each 1,000 milliseconds, hopefully I don't have to reset
This
that.
function, I'm just going to say console.log, and then put 3 seconds have passed. So when we run this file in Node, set timeout is going to fire this function after 3,000 milliseconds, which is 3 seconds, and then it's going to log this message to the terminal down here. So let's go ahead and type in node app, press enter, and we still get that hey ninjas because I've not saved this file. Okay, I've done that now. Now let's try it again, node app, and this time we wait 3 seconds, and then it's going to log 3 seconds have passed to this terminal down here.
Okay, so basically he wrote a basic function so that it would say 3 seconds have passed whenever actual 3,000 milliseconds have passed, which is 3 seconds. Again, hopefully I don't have to repeat that again. So we can actually go ahead and test that. I'll leave that here if people are watching so that they can write the code, or they can get a follow-up on the code. And I'll leave it there for a minute, and then I'll start kind of showing the example of how that works. Okay? So you have set timeout, parentheses, function, parentheses, close parentheses, curly bracket, console.log, parentheses, quote, 3 seconds have passed, quote, parentheses, semicolon, yeah, okay. So you guys get that. And yes, you have to close your lines with semicolon. I know that there are certain coding languages that you don't have to do that, but in this case, yes, you do. In this case, you do. Alright. Alright. So let's look at that here. I actually have more of a complicated thing here, but I still have the same concepts where I have console log and then blank seconds have passed, right? Obviously, and then you just kind of set up however long you want it to be based on the interval. I have 1,000 here, so that means every second it'll do that. And then when you have yours set up, please make sure you save, so that way whenever you run it on the command or the terminal, it will actually run the up-to-date version of the code you have. If you don't save, it will run what you previously saved before, and it won't work properly. So you're going to type node, and then you're going to type whatever the name of the project is, right? And then you're going to go from there. Mine didn't go, obviously, because I am not under the proper project folder, so I would have to actually go to CD documents. I'm going to go individually, CD documents, and then CD, this is the part, node, projects. You could do single. I think you could do double too, but I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah, you could do double as well. Alright, and then, yeah, so now I could probably do node new. I could type .js, but I won't need to. So 1 second, 10, 2, 3. And so in my case, I have it state a second has passed, and it keeps adding up till whatever the if statement is stated. Hopefully you guys know what if statements are. Hopefully you understand that. And then mine says, wee, because I'm a goofy person, so don't worry about that. Now let's add a line there. So if you want to see my code, you definitely can. He's going to get eventually into this as well as we move forward, but if you want to see what I wrote here, you definitely can. So yeah, you can definitely do that. I'll leave that there for a second. Keep in mind, VAR obviously is for writing variables. So whenever you write VAR, that is set. That's to make whatever you write ahead of that the variable name, and then obviously you can set standards for those, et cetera, et cetera. If you're gonna write comments, make sure you use // That way you can write one-line comments. If you're gonna write multiple line comments, I think it's /* and then */ to close it out. So yeah. Okay. All right. Hopefully people have got that. And then yeah, so I'm gonna leave that here. I'm actually gonna close the stream now. So that way next week we'll have a proper schedule doing these. I think maybe I'll do once or twice a week these kind of classes. We'll see. And I'll put the date and time as to when we're going to do those. Also, maybe I'll see how people feel about what they prefer as far as times goes and who's interested in this. So we'll go from that as well. All right. So I'll leave it at that. You guys can watch the videos going forward. We'll pick it up back at 2:54 next week, so that way people are right on track. Anyways, I'll see you guys. You guys have a good one. I'll see you at the meeting for Right Hack Ups. Bye.